Hello. I'm going on a strike today. I'm gonna read as much as possible. Again, I don't know when will be next time, so let's see how many I can make. Forget my husband, I'll go make money. Chapter 50. Who asked about the lovey-dovey story between the two of you? Knock, knock. When Diana heard the light knock, she quickly shut her half-open mouth. Who is it? Don't tell me the maids are back already. No. It had been a while. So, it meant sense that they were back. Frankly, the fact that the maids were serving the princess left the princess alone on her wedding day for such a long time didn't make sense by itself. And there were even maids from her home country. I haven't even been able to ridicule the princess yet. Diana's face was filled with frustration. But soon she calmed down. I believe the Selman's maid hate the princess. It might be more effective if I used that point well. She only needed to focus on making sure her true intentions were not revealed. The maids from Selman's were anxious because they were unable to slander the princess, so it should be very easy. She didn't need to say too much, only throw a few baits. Come in. However, the person who came in after the door opened was not a maid. Brother Durante? Diana's eyes shook at the unexpected visitor. Your Highness, Durante greeted Aristine formally. No with informal courtesy, but an official formality. The formality that a warrior shows to the royal family. Diana's expression hardened immediately. It feels odd to be called that already, Aristine said, leaning against the armrest. You may rise. Once her relaxed permission fell, Durante bowed and rose to his feet. As she watched the whole process, Diana bit the flesh in her mouth. Despite saying it felt awkward, Aristine looked very relaxed, as if she was saying that such treatment was very natural, since she was born a novel personage. Diana clenched her fist. Why is Brother Durante here? She felt anxious in the pit of her stomach. She remembered running into Durante right after instigating Mukali last time. Don't tell me it's because of that. Maybe he heard everything she said to Mukali then. Diana struggled to keep her shaking body upright. This came as a huge shock, and it was hard to accept for Diana, because she had always been managing her image. But at least it's Brother Durante, not someone else. He wasn't the type to meddle like this, just because he heard the discussion. It should be the same even now. She doubted Durante came here knowing she was in the bride's waiting room. Even if he knew, Durante was not the type to interfere in things that did not concern him. He must be here for something else. Right? Everything was fine. Diana comforted herself. Meanwhile, the conversation between Aristine and Durante was flowing smoothly. It's been a while since we've talked, said Durante. Yes. We crossed paths a few times, but I was not able to greet your Highness. They saw each other at the welcome banquet, and also ran into each other a few times in the palace, but they only exchanged nods and passed each time. So what brings you here? The ceremony will be starting soon, so I'm here to make sure the preparations are all set. There are no issues, understood. By the way, Diana, why are you... Durante's gaze turned to Diana. Diana's stiff lips moved slightly, but no words left her mouth. She wasn't sure how much Durante knew, so she didn't know what to say. Oh, she came to congratulate me on my wedding, apparently. Aristine answered in place of Diana, who was silent. Congratulations, you say? Aristine nodded and chuckled. Come to think of it, I did say a few more things, so it's no congratulations. The main point was the really boring show of a lover. I'm curious about that too. Durante said with a rare smile, even though his eyes were smiling, his expression was quite chilly. Aristine tilted her head. It's boring though. Only people who didn't know what the discussion was about would ask so bravely. Aristine turned to Diana. Her gaze was practically saying, since someone has made the stage, you can show off as much as you like. But for some reason, Diana flinched and stiffened at her gaze. She stood still, as if her lips were glued together. Then her eyes curved softly as she smiled. Oh, Princess, I didn't say much, did I? I said I hope that your Highness will have a successful marriage. Didn't you add at the end because you were embarrassed after bragging about yourself? Aristine asked with a tilt of her head. She thought Diana enjoyed it, especially since she came to find a practical stranger to brag about her lover. Diana's face burned red. It wasn't aware Diana had something worth bragging about. I think the princess misunderstood. It's really nothing. Diana hurriedly replied when she heard Durante's words. Seeing Diana like this, Aristine sighed slightly. Durante was curious about Diana. As to why she was acting embarrassed when she finally had the stage up for her. In the end, Aristine had no choice but to say it herself. It's nothing big. She was just bragging that she and Tarkan had a very special relationship since they were young. Diana's face turned white once those words left Aristine's mouth. She hurriedly checked Durante's expression. He was looking at Aristine without much change in his expression. What did she say again? I can barely remember. She also said that Tarkan's mother cared a lot for her. Aristine continues as she went over her memories. Seeing that, Diana felt like her heart was going to explode even more. Bad memory, my foot. The princess was deliberately only saying things that would make people angry. Yet she was claiming her memory was faint. Shouldn't shake with anger when she thinks of all of this. What else did she say? Anyway, she said it in different ways, but the conclusion is that she and Tarkan have a very deep relationship. Aristine roughly concluded her speech. Frankly, she remembered exactly what Diana said. After all, she had trained her memory to be excellent while going over the visions from the Monarch side. But come on, it's embarrassing. If she had to repeat what Diana said, word for word, it would be quite embarrassing, so she just fudged the explanation. I have to give it to Diana. She's amazing to be able to say such embarrassing things for so long. Aristine was impressed. How can shame not exist for some people? When you think about it, it sounded like an insult, but it was true admiration. A deep relationship. Durante lightly folded his arms and looked at Diana. Diana flinched and tried to say something at him, but before she could, Durante turned back to Aristine and asked, So, she congratulated your Highness and His Highness Tarkan's marriage after saying that? That our marriage must be successful, since it's before peace, before anything else. Indeed, I see. Durante nodded his head as a different gaze swept over Diana. In summary, the princess' words pointed to one thing, and one thing only. Diana had the nerve to go to a bride who's getting married and say, Your husband is my lover, and although he's marrying you, our love is true love, and it will last forever. All of that in a blatant manner. And then say, Congratulations on your marriage, to top it off. It was the icing on the cake. Durante chuckled. But brother Durante, Diana, who had turned so pale that it was pitiful to see, called out to Durante with pleasing in her eyes. Aristine shrugged her shoulders when she saw that. If you were going to act like this after, why did you come here to show off? She was acting so confident to Aristine, though no issue would arise from this. Generally, going to a bride on their wedding day and saying this and that about the groom was a good way to get slapped. It's different in this case, though. After all, Tarkan and her were merely partners in this business called a political marriage. They had even agreed on this fact before marriage. Diana must know that as well. She boasted so much of Tarkan's special regard for her, so of course he must have told her. That is why I thought she was just boasting thoughtlessly, but judging from the way she looks right now, I don't think that's the case. Aristine looked at Diana, who didn't seem to know what to do. Then she opened her mouth. She figured it would be better to take Diana's side and give Tarkan a hand. I'm fine, Durante. Aristine's expression as she said that really looked unaffected. But rather than his expression, a chill formed in Durante's eyes. That's the end of chapter 50. Chapter 51. Who asked about the lovey-dovey story between the two of you? Part 8. It's not like that, brother Durante. Diana, who had gone pale, shouted. But Durante did not respond. Instead, he sharply saluted Aristine. Your Highness, there doesn't seem to be any delay in the preparations. So I shall take my leave now. Go ahead. Durante bowed his head and turned around. Then he suddenly came to a stop. Oh, congratulations on your marriage. When he turned around again to congratulate her, Aristine pulled her lips into a smile. Thank you. You're my second congratulations. No, I would be the first. At those words, Aristine paused. Durante's steps were firm as he left the waiting room in silence after bowing again. Oh, he looks pretty upset. To be fair, Diana's words were perfect for a misunderstanding. Some people would not tolerate it even if they knew the entire situation. Because it's me, I didn't misconstrue what she said and just heard it as her showing off her lover. Had it been someone else, she might have seen the stars. Aristine was proud of herself. Although she grew up in confinement, she had an excellent character. Clack! The door shut, and Durante's figure completely disappeared from sight. Diana, who was standing in a daze, was startled awake by that sound. She hurriedly tried to follow after Durante without looking anywhere else. Where are you going? Aristine asked when she saw Diana suddenly start to leave without saying anything. Where else would I be going in this situation? Diana wanted to scream that out loud, if she could, but that was impossible. Her annoyance rose and she quickly gave a careless reply to the restroom. Aristine's eyes widened as Diana rushed out, leaving only those words behind. He needs to go there urgently? Ah, maybe it's constipation. He was enlightened immediately after asking that question. May your bowels move. Aristine wished Diana good luck. Sorry. Brother Durante! Even though Diana was calling him, Durante kept on walking. It was neither speeding up nor slowing down. As if he couldn't hear anything, he just took regular strides forward. Diana bit her lips and ran. It was only after she grabbed his firm arm that Durante stopped walking. Brother! Miranda's dark blue eyes looked down at her. Diana opened her mouth to explain, but she couldn't say anything. Right now, they were in the wedding lobby. This was not just any royal wedding, but a national wedding that brought the war in the Empire to an end. Most nobles, including high-ranking nobles, were gathered here, as well as reporters and prominent figures from all walks of life. Even the crown prince's wedding wouldn't get this much attention. Everyone's eyes were gathered on them because Diana had been chasing after Durante while calling him loudly. It's not that, it's not that. He could only whisper that in a barely audible voice. What is? At that subdued question, Diana gripped Durante's arm tighter. You can't do this. All of you are alive because of my brother. Diana's eyes sank darkly. My brother died saving you all, and yet, how could he treat her like this? Naturally, you should take my side. You should treasure me and take care of me. Aren't I right? He wanted to ask. Let's go outside. Let's go outside and talk. But Diana could only say that while lowering her head. However, Durante did not respond. Brother Durante, please. Diana's voice was trembling as if he was about to disappear. Durante silently looked down at Diana. Her long, dark blue hair was scattered over her lower head, making her face impossible to see. The knuckles of her arms felt as if she held his arm tightly. Durante let out a small sigh and began to move. Diana's heart jumped, thinking he was going to just leave, and she lifted her head, but once she realized he was heading towards an empty room, her face brightened. Diana quickly followed after Durante. What the hell is going on? Macaulay frowned when he saw Diana and Durante enter the empty room together. He was very startled when Durante came out of the bride's waiting room, and Diana came running after Durante immediately after. He didn't know Diana was with the princess, and Durante even ignored Diana calling him. I don't know what happened, but he shouldn't treat Diana like that. His heart ached to see Diana unable to raise her head. Seriously, Durante's temper. Macaulay shook his head and walked towards the room they went into. He didn't plan to eavesdrop. That was something only shameless people did. As he stood before the door, Macaulay snorted and rubbed his nose. He just wanted to check if Durante was calling Diana or not, because he had to protect the pitiful child from the bad-tempered Durante. Yes, that was all it was. But I have to know what they're talking about to do that. Acting like a different person, he leaned closer to the door and pricked up his ears to listen to the sound in the room. Brother Durante, you're being too much. Although it was faint, Diana's voice was laced with tears. How can you do this? Even after losing her family, Diana remained a confident and easygoing child. She was a child who never held any grudges towards them, who had come back alive without her brother. Now the child was crying like this. He wanted to kick up the door right now and give Diana a hug. However, no matter how bad Durante's temper is, he's not the type to get angry for no reason. At that thought, his hand, which was about to grab the door knob, hesitated. After losing my elder brother so suddenly, I've lived thinking of you guys as my older brothers. But how can you? But the moment he heard those words, Macaulay forgot the reason for his hesitation and slammed the door open. That's the end of chapter 51. Chapter 52. Bang! The open door slammed against the wall, creating a loud noise. Durante's eyes narrowed when he saw Mukale standing there, as if he was blocking the doorway. Mukale slammed the door shut again. Brother Mukale! Diona's voice was filled with disappointment, sadness, and bitterness. Mukale quickly walked up to her. It's all right, Diona. I'm here. Mukale's sturdy hand patted Diona's shoulder. He immediately spun around and rebuked Durante. Durante, why are you acting like this to Diona? I'm simply stating my opinion. Durante looked at Mukale with an annoyance and irritation in his eyes. His gaze was saying, don't butt in when you don't know what happened. Mukale flinched. Certainly, he didn't know what was going on, but still. Regardless, you're in the wrong. Mukale yelled, putting his arms around Diona. You know what kind of child Diona is. Durante looked at these actions with cold eyes and sighed. Sometimes I envy you. What? The part of you that can be so simple, you only see what's in front of you. Durante spoke as if he was mumbling. Then he took a step towards the door. Just before he walked past Diona, he stopped and uttered in a lower voice. Diona, don't forget what I said. Durante's face was cold without the slightest warmth, as if he looked at her. I do not care what you do with the princess. Mukale frowned his brows. Princess? Does this have something to do with the princess? The face of the small and miniature thumb princess appeared in his mind. While Mukale was hesitating, Durante took a step closer. But if he happens to disturb my lord... Durante did not finish his sentence, only his indifferent dark blue eyes swept over Diona's face. Durante brushed past the two of them and walked out of the room. Maybe I should have heard what was going on first. Mukale belatedly shut his mouth and looked at the already closed door. Diona clenched her fist tightly and lowered her head. Her eyes were blazing as she stared at where Durante was just standing. I think the princess misinterpreted what I said. That's not what I meant. I want the princess to get along with his highness, so... Diona immediately served up the excuse that she thought of when she and Durante were alone in the room. She glanced at his face, but Durante's expression was no different from before. So I tried to tell her that his highness likes, and I was only saying what had been close to his highness since I was a child, to explain why I know his highness' preferences. I didn't even know the princess would take it that way. I was just trying to be of help. She only could say that out of pure goodwill to help the princess. The princess misunderstood her. Diona's long trail of words was just to say that. Seeing Durante just listening quietly, she grew more courageous and added a little more. I don't know why the princess said it to your brother Durante. That way, and make you misunderstand me. She should be intelligent enough to understand my intentions, right? What Diona meant was obvious. Aristine deliberately framed her. He was packaging the princess as a smart person, but that was the true meaning. Diona. Yes, brother Durante? Why are you telling me this? What does that have to do with me? Huh? You don't need to explain to me. I believe I told you this before. But before he meant when she ran into him right after talking to Mukale. At that moment, Diona realized. He heard her entire conversation with Mukale back then. And with how quick-witted Durante was, he must figure out her intentions behind saying such things. Color receded from Diona's face. Are you blaming me right now because of that? Brother Durante, you know how I feel too. That feeling does not help His Highness Tarkin in any way. His words were cruel. That's really too much. You are being too much, Brother Durante. He pretended to cry, but Durante's expression did not ease up, even after she brought out the trump card of her dead brother. Instead, Mukale entered the room to wrap his arms around her. Brother Mukale, Diona quietly called Mukale's name. Diona, are you okay? Macaulay comforted her, saying, I really don't know why that guy is acting like this. Even though he has a bad temper, he's not the type to carelessly speak to people. At those words, Diana clenched her fist tighter. Indeed, Durante was the type of person that would not interfere, no matter what was happening around him. Unless it concerned Tarkan, that is. But why was he angry about her matters with the princess? He said he didn't care about his attitude, and gave a clear warning towards her. Diana hid her boiling anger and looked up at Macaulay with a sad smile. It's okay, I understand. I must have done something wrong. I made Brother Durante upset. Diana's sea blue eyes glistened with tears. Diana. Macaulay didn't know what else to do but comfort her. It's not your fault. It's all Durante's fault. Go on and scold him, okay? At those words, Diana wiped her eyes and chuckled. Brother Macaulay, you're so kind, really. You're like my real brother. Yes, I am your brother. Hearing that, Diana looked down. I thought of Brother Durante as a real brother, but Durante must not feel the same. Diana, I'm sure Durante cares for you inside. I don't know. It's never happened before, and I don't know why he's suddenly like this. Maybe the princess told Brother Durante something about me. Diana, who was speaking as if she was mumbling to herself, quickly shook her head. No, I don't mean to say that. Diana waved her hand while trying to smile. Macaulay's face turned serious. Did something happen in the bar's waiting room? What do you mean? Nothing happened. Despite saying that, Diana's expression made it obvious that something had happened. Brother Macaulay, you know the thing I told you about the princess last time? Yes. Please forget about that. Normally, when you tell someone to forget something, they wouldn't be able to forget even more. Since she had failed, she hoped Macaulay would get agitated and have an outburst at the ceremony. If that happened, Macaulay would be in an awkward position, but that was none of Diana's business. That's the end of chapter 52. Chapter 53. But right then, Macaulay's face brightened, and he asked, Why? Did the princess seem different than you expected after you talked to her? His reaction was not what Diana expected. He seemed happy, even relieved for some reason. Diana faltered for a bit, and then she shook her head. No, that's not it. Her eyes scanned Macaulay's face, like she was searching for something. It's just, hey, Brother Durante protecting the princess like that. I can see everyone likes the princess, so maybe I'm just creating unnecessary trouble. Hearing the word princess, Macaulay's eyes trembled a little. When she saw his disgusting left eye twitch, Diana controlled her expression as much as possible to avoid offending him. Brother Macaulay, you've met the princess too. What do you think? The princess is a good person, right? For a moment, Macaulay was at a loss for words. Naturally, he should say no. There's no way the Princess of Sylvanus could be a good person. Isn't it a stranger to like a Sylvanian when you don't even know what schemes they're cooking up inside? Don't lose your mind just because she's a little pretty. What about her is much better. Don't submit so easily. The words he said to his fellow warriors choked him like a whip. I haven't fallen. He was not the kind of person that was swept away by small and delicate things because they stimulated his protective instincts. I don't trust the princess. I can't possibly believe a woman who has eyes on another man before her marriage. Brother Macaulay, I have a plan to catch her red-handed. It is a fearsome plan. Not even a cunning Sylvanian can escape. Macaulay looked as if he was determined to reveal to the world exactly what kind of person the princess was, and seeing that, Diana smiled. It was so simple that he's easy to handle. Diana knew that the princess wasn't really having an affair, but that didn't matter. If Macaulay went digging around, rumors would definitely spread. Today is the only day you will be able to hold your head high in front of me, princess. Her sea blue eyes gleam insidiously. Tarkan instead stood in front of the hallway, waiting for Aristine. No matter where he looked, the atmosphere was filled with the brim, to the brim with the high of a wedding celebration. He had known he was getting married for a long time, but now he was really getting married, so he felt uneasy. Regardless of how he felt, the marriage had to be done. Aristine was even a pretty decent marriage partner. If it weren't for her, I mean, perhaps Tarkin was satisfied with Aristine. To him, she was an unusual woman that he couldn't figure out. But that was no bad thing. Sometimes she felt even pleasant. She was the only woman, no, the only person who could draw out such feelings in Tarkin. However, he still couldn't forget the girl he saw 10 years ago. A young girl who suddenly appeared in the demonic beast's plains. She looked much younger than him. He still couldn't figure out why a little girl was there alone in the demonic beast's plains. If it weren't for her, Tarkin would have died that day. His keen hearing picked up the sound of small footsteps. His golden eyes, which had been withdrawn, turned towards the path leading to the bride's waiting room. The afternoon sunlight flooded in through the huge windows. The crystals that were hung everywhere scattered the sun rays, covering the floor in a brilliant array of colors. In the middle of that dazzling path, Aristine was slowly walking towards him. Tarkan's pupils shook slightly as his eyes widened a little. She was already a beautiful person, but her appearance today mesmerized people with just a single glance. But that was not why Tarkan was agitated. For some reason, the appearance of the young girl he saw in the demonic beast plane overlapped with Aristine. His eyes met Aristine in the distance. Her purple eyes curved softly. Her eyes shone brighter than radiant colors reflected onto her dress by the jewels in the hallway. With one step at a time, and no hesitation at all, Aristine walked up to him. A small and delicate face looked more vibrant than any flower. They were not alike at all, not even in the slightest. Tarkan. Aristine's voice sounded like it was from a dream. A soft hand placed itself on its firm arm. For some reason, his muscles tensed and his arm stiffened. The bride and groom stood side by side, looking at each other for a moment. Both of them were expressionless. No excitement, anticipation, or nervousness could be seen on their face. But strangely enough, the cool servants at the back could not take their eyes off them. Their faces flushed red as they forgot what they were doing and stared at the couple who stood there like a painting. "Please, take care of me in the future, partner," Aristine whispered to him. Tarkan looked away from her face. "Let's go." Just as his voice fell, the doors to the ceremonial hall opened. That's the end of chapter 53. Let's see if later I can do something. Happy New Year, by the way.